You know what? Let's start off with the fun one. You heard me talking about this seconds ago. Again, going all the way predating this particular show in the 5 shows I do weekly. I started out with originally Breakfast at Boom, followed by the Xbox Factor podcast. That, in fact, was the second live stream that I used to do, once a week, like we do here. And then eventually, now we have a parade of shows, like almost like it's syndication, where Monday through Friday we have live streams, and I love doing it. It gives me a lot to do, and I get a chance to hang out with you guys and gals 5 days a week. So it's my goodness, it's so much fun for me. But Fuzzy Belvedere, look, kart racers go all the way back to where it started, and that was, of course, on the original, Super Nintendo with Mario Kart. Mario Kart came out, and it did something for fans of the Mario series where we were transported into realms made of racetracks of some of the most infamous or infamous boards through Nintendo. And of course, one of the most popular ones, one of my personal favorites, and I'm not the only one, is the Rainbow Bridge, right? That has seen numerous iterations over the years, and it just continues to get better and better and better. So obviously, one of the biggest announcements, and there were quite a few last week, all surrounding Nintendo. Of course, the delay of the pre-orders that was supposed to happen on the 9th due to the tariff situation really soured a lot of fans like me who want the console, but honestly can't justify having to pay $750 for a console that was originally going to be $500. So I'm not buying one if it's going to be that price. For myself, I will hold out until this tariff situation works its way out. But outside of that negative news, one of the biggest announcements was Mario Kart World. Now, we all thought it was going to be either 9 or X, right? That was the original thought theory. And it turns out that it's Mario Kart World, and it does things. And I know there's a lot of people like, hey, boom, what's the big deal? We drive around all over the place in Forza Horizon 5. And yep, I get it. They did it. They're originators of it. But this has never been seen before or done before, for that matter, on a Mario Kart. So it is kind of a big deal. It is honestly a big deal. The free mode or the open world mode is pretty cool. And you get to hang out. Like, for instance, I'd get to hang out with my nephew talking, and just hanging out playing Mario Kart. See, that's important to me. May not be important to you, but that's fine. So how does this whole Mario Kart world involve Xbox? Well, look, if you ever wanted to see what an Xbox IP character looks like behind the wheel of a racer, you don't have to look too far, folks, because you could look to Sega's All-Star Racing for the Xbox 360. I have the copy right here, where Banjo-Kazooie was in the game. And that is, of course, an Xbox character. Now, Banjo-Kazooie has been in Smash. He has been a part of the Sega, the Sega Rally or the Sonic Racers. He's obviously a big part of Xbox. He just doesn't have a new game. So it can happen, right? And Fuzzy, listen, I bring this to your doorstep because I really kind of want to just drop this in your lap because you are one of the best people to speak to when it comes to racers. And I think that it's, again, maybe I'm just being a little facetious here, but I find it to be a bit egregious that, as great as Xbox Game Pass is, right? As great as Xbox Game Studios are, there are some things missing from both the from the platform itself and from the streaming service. And I've always been a big fan of this. Now, again, I don't denounce myself as being a nerd. I like family games. I know a lot of people only want bro shooters, which you have on your screen. And if that's your thing, I'm not going to fight you on it. But I like platformers and I love kart racers. I really enjoyed the nitro-fueled ones with Crash. I've played some of the other ones, the Nickelodeon one with Tyler. We've had fun with those. Obviously, we're Mario Kart nuts, so we play that all the time. But I think that there's an opportunity here, just looking and reading the room, Fuzzy. Right now, there is no denying that Xbox Game Studios owns two of the premier racing studios in gaming. There is no one better than Turn 10 and Playground Games. That is a fact, folks. We've seen many racers come out before it, and the ones that still stand the test of time are both Forzas, both versions of Forza by Turn 10 and Playground Games. Now, this is just a suggestion from me, thinking about where do you get the talent, Fuzzy? Where could you absolutely find the talent to make this? Because we know that Phil Spencer and the the decision makers aren't going to quote unquote force anyone to make a game. So we're not going to see Phil come down and say, "Hey, Turn 10, you know what? Make this game right now because we want to make money." Because again, a kart racer that is not free to play, but could, and again, I'm putting on the business hat here, folks, and I know the virtual tomatoes are coming out. They could make money on these. This does not have to be a one and done release. They could sell you outfits. They could sell you carts. There's ways to do it that obviously don't gouge the consumer, but make you want, like for instance, Call of Duty. A lot of people don't like the stupid outfits. Guess what? I'm running around with a guy with a flaming skull and antlers. Maybe that's not your thing. It's my thing. I happen to really like it. So there you go. But I think that if an internal memo went out and said, "Hey, we're looking to put a small team together," and it goes out to Turn 10, and it goes out to Toys for Bob, and it goes out to Playground Games, anyone interested in making a kart racer, I think there would be a lot of people to raise their hand, because kart racers are a thing, and they have been for decades.
Yeah.
Do you think we're at a time in gaming, specifically Xbox gaming, that it's about time that they get a kart racer? What are your thoughts on this, man? And I want you to kind of dive deep into this, because there's no one better to have this conversation than Fuzzy Belvedere.
I appreciate that. Like for me, I think it would be like a no-brainer for them to put something like this forward. And even if it's on the smallest scale possible, like Forza Horizon 5 has basically a lot of customization, very similar to like a Forge mode when it comes to Halo. Give us the tools at least to create these like kart type vehicles. And if it means we're just using our avatars from Forza in the beginning, and then integrate like different costumes, much like you can with Forza Horizon. You can be a orange safety cone, or a cup of coffee, or a variety of different skins that they have, that they don't sell as like microtransactions. They're like more like unlocks from you playing the game or participating in a certain special event type of deal. If they just started with at least that to kind of gauge the community feedback, as well as the engagement that they may pick up from that, I would say they should definitely start off at least at that level. But in the grand scheme of things, what I ultimately would like to see from a kart racer within the Xbox platform is something more on par with like the Mario Kart, but not just doing like a carbon copy type of deal where you're using all of your IP characters. Although the IP characters would be great, they kind of squandered the opportunity with the new avatars that they created in Unreal Engine that I think they're in the process of discontinuing or removing from the platform. Like that would have been an easy way to get more bang for buck out of those characters that we've created, to replace the old avatars. But integrating something along those lines would have made sense, because a lot of people bought shirts or hats or different clothing items for their avatar. So the microtransactions in that regard is one phase of it, but also the different carts that they could have, where it may not be any more of an advantage having a warthog styled racing cart, but there are people that would probably pay a couple of bucks to have that, or have something in the theme of an airplane if they're a flight sim fan. it doesn't actually fly, but it has like little mini wings that aren't going
Mm-hmm.
to really hinder or help per se, in the racing aspect. But it would be a visual cue kind of thing that, oh, they got a special cart because they're a big fan of flight sim or something along those lines. But there's so much that they could do where I don't think they would even really need to force the issue of having a dev within their walls having to do it, or making them do that. I think there would be either well, I wouldn't say volunteers because they're still going to want to get their paycheck for working, but
Of course.
I would say there's those that would probably want to participate in that project, and if not within their walls, possibly commissioning, like you said, something like Toys for Bob, or even going to their partners in, not partners in crime, but their partners in many different facets. Go to Sega and having them
Yes.
use that same team that did it for the crash, well, not the Crash Racing series, but like for the Sonic Racing series or kart racers and stuff. So they have, I would say, I wouldn't say unlimited resources, but they have plenty of resources that they can tap for a team that can be dedicated to that. But they also have the tools already out there within Forza Horizon 5, just not the ability to change it from regular cars, or maybe slight change to the physics in making them carts, or something miniaturized so you can have a caricature kind of sitting in a scrunched down type of car to make it look like a cart. I think that would be something that they should try, at least in that forge like mode. I keep on forgetting what they call it. It used to be where you could do like the custom tracks, but now you can do so much more with the track layouts and things like that, and add like almost like bounce jumps and
Yeah.
different barriers and tunnels and whatnot. So having more tools leaning towards that, I think, would be an awesome thing to try. And now, considering Forza Horizon 5 is going over to the PlayStation, you have a large audience that, you know, they don't have their own like kart racer either. Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that we basically hand that to them, but that would guarantee that you have a player base that would be able to bring up the engagement numbers, potentially be buying skins or other microtransactions, which would help with their funding for other projects down the road, type of thing. But yeah, there's so much potential between Turn 10 and Playground Games, but also some of their partners that they work with on a regular basis, whether it's stuff for Crash Bandicoot and that racer that they had, or even with the Sonic team racer type of deal. I think it would be a golden idea. It may not set records like some of the Mario Kart ones, but I think it would be a very good response, considering the investment versus what they would probably get out of it in the long run, or even in the short term. They would probably make a good bit more money from their investment in comparison to some other projects that instead of like a copy and paste kind of battle royale type of deal. I think that would be the better one to give a try. But if they could somehow rescue the avatars that they're about ready to cancel, and integrate that, even, I think it's a win-win all around.
I mean, again, when I make these suggestions, I love coming at it from the angle of a gamer, right? Just simplistic nerd gamer who has been a fan of kart racers and fighters and platformers outside of the games that are making the money, right? We all know that free to play games are where all these companies want to be because of things like Fortnite, Apex Legends. Marvel Rivals is a perfect example of a perfect storm, in a way that I don't think we could have ever guessed that it was going to be this good, right? And all that you hear about is this game. And sadly enough, I have yet to even pick up a controller and play it. I have it downloaded, and I want to use someone like the Punisher and Venom and some of my favorite Marvel characters. I just haven't had the time to play it, and that's a shame. But what I like to do in these instances, because I know that people from Xbox listen to the show, and we're very grateful that anyone would take the time to check out a show that doesn't even have 16,000 subscribers. Like, we're still incredibly tiny for a show, and to be involved in conversations with Microsoft and Bethesda and other developers and publishers is a really big deal for us. So I like to try and come at this not only from a gamer's point of view, I like to kind of come at this from a, let's put on the business hat for a second. And where I put the business hat on, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is because, again, we're in an era where in a game called Fortnite, you can have on any playing field people playing as Darth Vader, Goku, Indiana Jones, Superman, Captain America, a Ninja Turtle. Like, it is bonkers, right? That works. And what gets removed from this conversation is having to pay for the use of licensing IPs. See, Xbox doesn't need to do that. They own Activision, they own Bethesda, and they have Xbox Game Studios. And I just want to give a shout out to, where is it here? I believe it's Death3 in the chat. He says this: the Halo Ring or the Hell level from Doom or Oblivion Gate inspired levels would be different with all of their IPs. They could also do a Tony Hawk in a skateboard. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, and again, folks, I know I'm being super nerdy with this, and this is not the biggest topic of the show. We're going to get to the big ones in a second. But I do think, and again, I'm passionate about this stuff. And maybe it's not everyone's bag. Maybe you don't give a flying hoot nanny about Mario Kart or any kart racer for that matter. I understand. If you want to tune out, not a problem. Again, this is a nerdy kind of a topic. But Fuzzy, because licensing is not a problem, something we know that Phil Spencer doesn't like to do because they don't have control. They don't have ownership. They don't have control. And I absolutely, from a business point of view, understand that. This is different, though. This is way different because they have control. They own all of these IPs, and you don't have to release 60 tracks day one. You don't have to do that. You could release 15 tracks, and the tracks can be designed on the first 15 racers, right? You can have seasons. You can have season pass. Hey, season pass, whatever. You get these 4 new tracks, these 4 new characters, and you can buy parts for your thing. I mean, again, from the business point of view, there's an ability to make money here, so the development costs can be justified by having it. But you can have a level from Gears, a level from Fallout, a level from Doom. I mean, pick your favorite flavor. So from the business aspect, Fuzzy, there is a way to make money and absolutely justify why people, A, would be subscribed to your service, of course, Game Pass, but why they would spend the money, because this is something that is hot. And it's not like they're going to Toys for Bob for development. They have the studios. They just have to get people from within those studios to work on this. And I think if they polled them, if they literally sent out an email saying, hey, anybody interested, I think you would have a lot of people sign up. Let's get your final thoughts on the business aspect.
Yeah, you're right. With the key thing with them not having to spend outside dollars for licensing from all the IP that they have would be probably the best starting point that they have, where they don't have to go to like Marvel or Disney or things like that to be able to get licensing. But you can open the door for collaborations. You could have it where, Sonic and Crash and, maybe your partners over at Nintendo have Mario come over, or maybe a Mario Universe character be a selectable character as well, much like we've talked about having things like Master Chief and possibly Smash Brothers or something like that. They already have Steve from Minecraft and stuff. So you have that collaboration. And as I think it was Boss or Ross or somebody in the chat may mention, they've already done collaborations with Hot Wheels and Lego. So yes, you could have those tracks for that, and it would actually seem like a better fit with those types of cars. So the possibilities are endless, both with collaborations and the starting IPs that they already own, and some of them that they're not currently using. Like having a Banjo-Kazooie, like, yes, I know you want the actual game or more recent iteration of that game, but having that character, and let's say they get the feedback that a lot of people are buying that skin, that tells them directly that there is still interest in that character for a sequel or potential reboot to that series. So they have it helps them with metrics. It helps them not having to shell out a lot of money for IPs, since they already own a lot of IPs. They have the collaborations that they can work out with partners that they've already used, like Hot Wheels or Lego, and they've already worked well with other collaborations within things that we see in Game Pass. And I think that's something that would, one, be able to be easy to advertise or market as far as bringing people to the platform. Or if this is a multi-plat title, you have access now to the Switch 2 audience. You have access to the PlayStation 5 audience. You have plenty of access to the PC audience, as well as your current audience on Xbox. So, yeah, from a business standpoint, I would say it's a no-brainer, or it's an easy green light project. But sometimes the things that seem to make the most sense don't always work out. But yeah, I think it would definitely be a good business move, because you can, gauge interest in IPs that may have been dormant for a while. You can do business, collaborations, like having a skate park track or scenery from the skate parks and things like that for some of the tracks. Plus, some of the collaborations you've done within some of your own IPs that would work well within that range. So yeah, it's a great business case, I think. It comes down to which team or the people that would want to participate in that project.
Yes.
As long as it's not taken away from, let's say, Forza Horizon 6.
There you go. I get it. I get it. Make a third team. That's what I say.
I'm pretty sure you could get a strong enough team without it taking away from other current or near future projects. And it would be something meaningful at the end that they, one, would be proud of the results, and two, can still make money off of, which I know that's not always our concern, but them making money off of a live service like that continues that they will be able to reinvest that into other projects or other devices and the studios that make the games that we enjoy. So good business all around.
One final thought before we get on to topic number 2, and I didn't see it. It didn't see it asked, so I'm going to throw it out there. Yes, this would be multi-plat from day one. And here's why. Because they're working with PlayStation right now. They're working with Nintendo right now. Now you say, well, why would Nintendo want an Xbox racer? Maybe Nintendo doesn't want direct competition, and maybe they don't release it on Switch, which I don't think would be a great idea, because they could actually use some characters that were exclusive to the Switch version. That would also work for the PlayStation side of things. They could get exclusive characters. Now, I'm not saying that's the route they're going to go, but if the question was asked, and I didn't see it was asked, so I'm answering if I missed it, this would be a multi-platform release. And why would they want to do that? Well, because they'd be making money. And again, this is putting on the business hat. I know that sometimes people don't want to talk about that, but ultimately gaming, as great as fun as it is for us, it is ultimately a business. And if this was a multi-plat release on Steam, Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox Series X and X, and PlayStation 5 Pro and regular, you would get a lot of people playing this game. And you'd get a lot of people spending money on this game, justifying why it needed to be created and why it should exist. Again, I'll end it there. But again, nerdy conversation, folks. I absolutely admit I'm a big old nerd for this kind of stuff. Thank you for taking 20-something minutes of your time to listen to it. If you agree, great. If you disagree, not a problem. We can still be friends. But I really want Xbox to take advantage of their IPs. And I think a kart racer would be a great freaking way to do it.